Welcome, Adair, my very first guest on the flagship episode of Murky
Yeah,
Waters.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this has been a long time coming, and I'm glad you can make it out today.
Yeah, of course.
Get this going. So, how's your day going?
My day's going pretty well. I just woke up, made food, got ready, met up with you, had a coffee, and now we're here.
Yeah, now we're here.
Now we're
yeah,
here.
no,
Speaking into microphones, wearing headphones.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Making podcasts, making
Totally.
magic. So, tell me about yourself. I know I've met you through work, but
Oh yeah, no, we work together.
give me the
No
background.
doubt about it. Well, I grew up on the beach. Had a pretty good childhood. But was always super interested in music and drawn to sort of weird facets of different artistic inspiration. Weird literature and strange movies and stuff like that. And I suppose it wasn't until I was about 15 I started a band with a friend of mine from high school that I met, and we got a few people off of Craigslist to start playing with us. And she asked me, she was like, do you play the bass? I was like, yeah, but I lied to her because I didn't know how to play the bass. I only knew how to play like guitar and mostly drums, because she just like asked me if I wanted to join her band, but there was nobody in it.
So that was kind of like a fake it till you make it scenario.
Oh yeah, for like one day. And then I was like, so who else is in your band? And she was like, well, just you. And I was like, okay, well, I also play drums, so let's do that. So I found a pretty cheap drum kit. I kind of stepped away from the drums for a while because I played in like jazz band in school, but I eventually got kicked out for my antics, and they didn't appreciate my my sportsmanship, I suppose.
Why are you more of like a lone wolf type of guy and doesn't work well with others, or what was the deal there?
Well, we played Stairway to Heaven a lot, and that was like the only song I really enjoyed playing. And then there was one day I was messing around and got in trouble, and they sent me into the hallway, and they got the other drummer guy to play Stairway to Heaven, and I was like, man, that's cold. That hurts. So I stepped away from drums for a while, picked up the guitar, played that for a while, and then I was like, well, you know what? I still really like playing the drums, and I find like I've wanted to start a band ever since I was 11. So here I was in this situation where I was, playing drums with a friend of mine. She was playing like rhythm guitar and singing. And then we found a lead guitarist on Craigslist. And then a week later, we found a bass player on Craigslist. And that same bass player stayed with us until the band ended. And that was for like 4 years. So we were together for a very long time, and we explored a lot of different different avenues of our imagination, and a lot of different musical frameworks with each other.
See, to me and to possibly everyone else, that just seems a little strange. Maybe meeting a bunch of band members off of Craigslist. It's just like, I mean, I'm sure maybe in the community that's super normal, but just like explain what that's like. Just like kind of finding people you don't know off of a website meant for like selling things.
It was weird. I mean, I think we got pretty lucky though, because luckily the lead guitarist, the first guy we got off of Craigslist, he was about our age, and we had mutual friends because he like went to the same school as some of our friends outside of 20 minutes away from where we lived. So that was nice. So we got along well enough, and he was a good player, pretty strictly bluesy, but we were playing like pretty grimy grunge rock. So it was whatever. And he was like, I was like 15, right? So I was just like, I was very optimistic and very excited to like just get things going and to just play music. It was just so great. And it was just like the moment that I just completely dropped out of the social sphere in high school and just like put all of my focus. I just put all of my everything into it. And it was really fantastic. And then the other member we got off of Craigslist, who I'm still friends with to this day, he was 23 at the time, so he was like 8 years older than me. And it was a very interesting experience, just like playing with these strangers that you met off of Craigslist. But it was just like, oh my God, like we're we're unmistakably a band. And it was a really really special feeling, and something that's all we it brings me a lot of warmth to think back to. But the lead guitarist we were jamming with didn't last with us too long, because there was something about the three of us, me, Brittany, and Spenny. We had a very special connection, the three of us, and it stayed very strong for many many years.
Well, that's a good thing about music, right? Is this one thing I really appreciate is how it can kind of like galvanize and bring people together and kind of let people, like you mentioned that you kind of fell out of a social sphere, but that's kind of like the status quo social sphere, because like whether you're talking to people about sports or pop culture or history, it's just any circle where you're socializing is a social circle. So I mean, although you may have not been doing a traditional like going to house parties and like drinking beer and all that crap that a lot of people do, you were still socializing, you're talking to people, you're
Right.
making bonds outside and
I
growing
was
yourself.
socializing arguably more than I was before, but it felt special because I guess it wasn't like intertwined with like the people I went to school with necessarily, because like we were, going to all these different shows and just meeting different musicians who were playing all different kinds of music, and people that were, better than us, quite
Yeah.
frankly. But no, it was really nice. So I mean, yeah, we played together for a while. The lead guitarist, his name was Jack. He ended up leaving after a month or so. So we kind of had a few months of stagnant energy, and yeah, we just like we looked around for a while, and we eventually found another lead guitarist, and he was with us for about 2 or 3 years, and that was nice. And within that time, we played many many shows. We wrote a lot of songs, and we all were just getting better and better at our instruments, and it was really fantastic. And we were just like in a total we were a family.
So how did you get your feet wet? Like what was the first instrument that you started with? Like how did you
Drums.
know like this was for me?
Well, the first instrument I started with was drums, but it's hard to say when I knew it was for me, but I think it was when I started like really listening to music, because I kind of played music before I really like was a nerd about like listening to different artists. So my dad would always he would always push me to be musical, because he's musical himself. So he would sit me behind the drum kit when I was a toddler, and there was always guitars around the place. And the first stringed instrument I played was a ukulele.
Ukulele.
Yeah,
And is that 3 strings?
4 strings.
4 strings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know the next thing about music, but I mean I've seen people I know get ukuleles, like my sister and colleagues just get them kind of like as a joke and play it just for Instagram videos or
Well, they're
that
great.
kind of
They're
stuff.
great starter instruments.
So I've
Very
heard.
good. Yeah, and it's what I started on, and I eventually like slowly moved to the guitar. Excuse me, but I was very I love the drums, always have.
Yeah.
And they're just because it's just so primal. It's it's so primal, and it's so fun, and it like satisfies like just a deep urge I guess I've always had to just like create and be involved deeply with rhythm and time.
Well, you've definitely got the drummer look going for you, kind of like the
Thank you.
crazy hair, don't care,
Oh yeah.
like just going ballistic, not caring.
Oh,
Just
never
like
have.
one of my favorite things to watch actually is the drummer cams for some of the bigger bands. Like I'm a big fan of Slipknot.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know if you know them or
totally.
not, but if you watch the drummer cam on that, it's just like nuts watching the guys go crazy
it
on the
goes
drums
wild.
and their feet going. Like I can barely talk and text, let alone do stuff with both hands, both feet, not bash my head up and down
Yeah.
while wearing a mask. Like I like that's why they get that much money, and that's why I'm doing what I'm
Well,
doing, which is totally fine. But
If you, I can't remember the drummer's name of Slipknot, but I've seen videos of him where he's doing a drum solo and he's on a platform, and they raise him up while he's soloing.
yeah,
And
I've
then
seen that.
and then the platform like tips horizontal or vertically, and he's still just giving her, and he's like strapped into this chair,
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh my god, dude, I couldn't fucking imagine doing that.
Yeah, they do have this primal kind of edge to them. And like, as the saying goes, like the drummer is usually the bad boy or the one that gets the girls or the crazy one or the dirty one or however you want to look at it, depending on the band, right?
And the bass player is one that's just left to
Yeah,
left in the shit.
unfortunately, but you know, they're equally as talented. It's just,
Oh, they're
it's just
if
different.
not more talented.
Yeah, I've always wanted to learn how to play the drums. I mean,
Well, that's another really good starter instrument, because I would argue that it's the most, it's almost like a requisite for learning any instrument, just because it forces you to have an understanding of rhythm, which I think is arguably more important than having an understanding of harmony. It's important to have like a basic understanding of melody and harmony and chord progressions and all that, but if you don't have the rhythm, like, you don't have anything, because
no.
it's all about where it's put in time.